Well, hello. We are here. It is spring and it is football time at UB Stadium. The UB spring game taking place, and we're here to talk about the team. We'll talk about what's going on down there. It's not a game, but it's fun. It's a good event. We've got alumni in the house. We've got fans here, and we've got our broadcast crew assembled. I'm your host, Brad Ryder, play-by-play man, usually, Paul Peck. Scott Wilson's the color guy. Bob Gaughan's our post-game host and halftime guest, and we're all here because we're excited to get a look at the new version of the UB Bulls, led by new head coach Pete LMO. And I guess the first thing I'll say, I have not been around the program a ton since Pete has been here, but I've been on campus 3, 4, 5 times, and the vibe is entirely different, and I think all of us collectively can go, because there's a coaching staff out there that seems to be very interested in goals that are aligned with us and with the university, and everything I've seen so far is a positive step in the right direction for the program as a whole.
Yeah, I give Mark Alnutt credit for when he went through this coaching search, which came about surprisingly after Maurice Linguist decided to leave to go to Alabama, and the type of guys that he was looking for, and then ultimately the guy he hires in Pete LMO, a veteran coach. This is his 4th different stop as a head coach. He has been there. He has done that. He has coached in the SEC. He's coached in the ACC since his last run as a head coach in the Mid-American Conference. He just brings a different, calmer, like, I know how to do this attitude, and along with that, brings a coaching staff of guys that he has brought up and nurtured through the last 10 or 12 years as a coach, because every assistant on this team has some connection to one of those stops of Pete LMO, so he knows that they know what he wants.
Experience is something in a head coach that you can't replicate. You either have it or you don't, and the Bulls haven't had it. I think it's shown at some pretty key moments over the last couple of seasons. You know, you mentioned the stops. We all know the big schools that he's been at as an assistant. When he was a head coach, he won, period, every stop of the way. And he went on to be an assistant. It refreshed his pool of connections that he could bring in to bring a staff together again. And he's done that here. Some really cool young names that, if you ask around the coaching community, are very highly thought of as far as the next guys on defense here. And he went experience on offense with Dave Patnod, a guy who had a tie coming in already, but kept him and retained him on staff. And I'm very excited about the way this thing is going to be moving forward.
I think in life, you know, a lot of times your actions speak so loud I can't hear what you're saying. What were the actions of the players? They stuck around. You know, you see some organizations or some teams, Kent State loses their coach. No one comes back.
Everyone's
Literally
gone.
everybody. Every single person is gone. The team wins one game last year against Central Connecticut. That's not the case here. When we go through this spring game, there are at least, you know, over a dozen players that were kind of starters that are still here. So I think that those players said says a lot about this coaching staff.
And it wasn't a great year last year. Obviously, the goals are always get to Detroit, get to a bowl game, and that's not something that happened last year. But I think we all saw sort of the bones of a roster that could be more successful in a different situation. And I think getting a new perspective from a new coaching staff while bringing back a lot of the same players and adding to that, I think you're definitely heading in the right direction. If this same group came back with the same coaching staff, I think we'd all kind of have our heads down wondering, you know, did they do something in the offseason to figure it out? Because there were mistakes that were made on a consistent basis last year that I just don't expect to see out of this different style of staff.
And keep in mind, we live in a much different era of college football now, so what it allows a new coach to do is more easily mold this team quicker than it would have been in the past. So I think one of the things that we'll talk a lot about as we go through the afternoon is the team that is out on this field right now could look significantly different than the team that you see in that season opener on August 29th, including at the most important position. Pete LMO will have a chance to look at this team, figure out what he has that he likes, what he needs to bolster, and then get into the portal and find out which kids want to be a part of this as well. And that's just the world that we live in of college football now.
Absolutely, and I think you've seen it develop here for the program in general this past week as the Bulls roll out their first NIL collective. an initiative where they can finally start to get on that next level and try to compete with some of the bigger programs in the conference. Toledo has had an NIL collective, and that's something that the Bulls are going to be able to take advantage of. And the portal has changed everything. We've talked about it a lot over the last couple of years as it's become so prominent. But I think that there's going to be some guys coming in here between now and the start of fall camp, if not just for depth, but also guys that can make a big difference. And Bob's right. There are a lot of guys on this team that have stayed, that after meeting with the coaching staff had 30 days to go into the portal and didn't. And they have almost automatically bought in to what Pete LMO wants to sell here and has talked about with this team and what he wants to build here. And I think that speaks a lot. That's very loud when it comes to evaluating the hire that's been made and the type of changes that are being made here in the program.
So what they're doing today, it's just offense against defense, to give you a little idea of what's happening on the field. That doesn't sound like anything crazy. That's football. There's always offense against defense.
Sometimes we see two teams.
But sometimes it's blue against white. Here, what we're looking at is a scoring system that allows for the defense to gain points by getting the team off the field, by taking the ball away, by scoring a defensive touchdown, obviously. Those sorts of things. So as of right now, the defense leads 6-0. We've just gotten underway.
2 3-and-outs.
A couple minutes in. But 2 3-and-outs. We saw was it Gunnar Gray just now? Who had the first drive?
CJ Agbana.
CJ Agbana has been running with the ones.
Okay.
Gunnar Gray was running with the twos on offense.
And we're back to ones versus ones as we watch the action on the field right now.
Yeah. So the quarterback situation, there's a big pile of them, and
there's a bunch.
I'm not convinced that the starter is on the field right now, or that the starter is in the stadium right now, as the portal continues to be a situation to monitor for the Bulls.
Well, you only have C.J. Agbana as the only quarterback on this roster that has ever thrown a college pass. So, and fans will remember he played a little bit last year as a running alternative to Cole Snyder. But, other than that, everybody else on this team has yet to ever play in a game. So there's not a lot of experience. And even C.J. Agbana didn't have, he played 8 games through 1 touchdown and ran for 3 touchdowns last year. So there's a gap there, whether you want to say it's experience, whether you want to say it's passing, it's age, whatever it is. But again, there's no position that is more easily acquired through the portal than quarterback.
And the quarterback, even if we're talking about we don't know who the starting, you could still see C.J. Agbana being
having a role,
and that is very common with many teams. They're going to throw the Bulls have done it for years, right? Throw that off-speed pitch in,
sure,
and have somebody like a C.J. Agbana come in, be able to run, be able to throw a little bit, and just be an off-speed pitch. So I see a role for CJ on this team, whether it's a starting quarterback or even in a role as a role player.
I can tell you that CJ has looked much more comfortable in the spring practices than I remember seeing him last year, and that may just be time in the system, a system that maybe fits him better. He's been up and down, and Pete LMO has said that as well too. But he, to me, has just looked more comfortable running the offense.
And it's a better offense.
Well, that's
so let's just start right there. I mean, start right there.
I think we all agree the offense might start up front. And one thing you do have coming back is that 4 starters, right, from the last game coming back. That's huge. I mean, because you could go downhill fast with a bad offensive line. So having 4 starters back, I don't care who's the quarterback, that is huge for this team.
Yeah. But we are going to talk about quarterback a little bit. Whether you care or not, Bob, it's still going to be a topic all throughout the season. Agbana, I thought, at the scrimmage a couple weeks back inside the field house, we're sitting here watching him. I didn't know he could throw the way that he throws.
Yeah.
But I also then, it kind of occurred to me, maybe judging C.J. Agbana as a passer based on the situation he was put in last year where he's mostly in there as a runner, as sort of a gimmick, as an off-speed type of situation. Maybe that's not the way to judge him, and you just look at the approach to the offense now. Maybe he's more settled just in that way, because I was pretty impressed with what I saw. Some perfect passes in that scrimmage inside the field house last week. Pass we just saw, not great.
No. So, and I think Bob makes an excellent point. You know, in the core basis of football, when you have an experienced offensive line, that makes it a lot easier for everything else around. And this is a very new set of skill position players. You're going to have a new starting running back. You're going to have at least, I think, 3 new starting wide receiver. Well, 2, depending on what you want to count Nick McMillan, who played a lot last year. You know, and whoever that quarterback is, at least would feel like there's a bunch of guys up front, familiar names to Bulls fans from last year, like Isaiah Wright and Tyler Doty and Trevor Brock, that at least show that they can move some people around.
Still talking about the quarterbacks here. Remember last year in conference play, the Bulls were basically the only team that didn't have to, by injury, start a second quarterback. I mean, when they were moving around Cole Snyder, that was by choice.
Yeah, right.
He wasn't hurt. Every other team in the conference, partially because of the non-conference situation where teams are taking bye games and Kent State's going to Alabama, and, you know, Dallas Turner's turning the edge on this poor freshman starter that they got, and it was bad. Part of that is that, but you got to also have a second guy, and even if Agbana doesn't become the starter, I like the fact that he's got some experience.
Sure.
He played at the FCS level. He played here last year. And like you said, we've seen a little bit more of that passing game from him here in this spring to make me feel comfortable that, hey, whatever the situation is, at least there's a second guy that should what in the conference has kind of become inevitable. You're going to need a game out of somebody else. We got somebody that can step in.
And you need that person to be able to throw, because we've seen in previous years, whether it be Agbana, whether it be Myers, come in, and it just was like an automatic, this is going to be a run. You know, you can't have that. You've got to be able, that second quarterback has got to be able to at least be able to throw a little bit as a
just to keep
indicator.
everybody honest.
You got to keep the defense honest. So it is good that, you know, you're seeing Agbana be a thrower that can be a threat.
Our program today, whatever this thing is, it's a podcast, it's a YouTube video. I don't know what we're doing, but I know we're in a booth. We got all the official equipment on. Whatever it is,
football out there.
There's football over there, and it's brought to you by Hyundai. I know that. Defensive side of the ball. Let's flip over there, and obviously we're going to go back and forth, but just sort of as we're getting warmed up here at the spring game at UB Stadium today, what do we expect as far as returning players, any influx of new talent? What is your general sense of what we're going to see out of the defense this year?
I think more experience returning than on the offensive side. I think it might be easy to say this time of year the defense might be the better unit of this squad, because you are bringing guys like C.J. Bazile and Marcus Fuqua and Red Murdoch and Deion Crawford and Charles McCarthrins and Jaden Oliver and George Wallow and Deshaun Folsom. Those are all guys that have played here over the last couple of years. They're all back, and we're strong down the middle. Defensive tackle, a really strong position. Linebacker looks strong. Safety looks good. Light at defensive end, in particular, pass rush, where that's going to come from, I think, is a big question.
You talk about experience. This happens with somebody every year, but I got to the scrimmage the other day and I went, Fuqua's still here?
Yeah.
Like, I just assume, it seems like it's been a while, and it just seemed like it was time, but between the COVID thing and all the portal rules, now everything has changed. Guys stick around for a long time, and you can be a real veteran, as we'll see in the defensive backfield for the Bulls this year.
Yeah, the first thing that I always look for is, or I always fear like, you're going to get run up the middle. I don't want that. Yeah. And to your point, you talk about the 2 tackles, you talk about the 2 linebackers, and you talk about the safety. You just mentioned that. You're strong up the middle. And that is, I think, defensively, that's the initial strength that just – leaps off the page to me, is that strong right up the gut.
Yeah, I think that defensive tackle wise, they could go 6 deep at that defensive tackle position. Folsom and Wallow probably going to be the starters out there, but Devin Morgan we started to see towards the end of last year, very good. Cornell Evans, Jamari Core, Junior Poyser, both young guys, but the flashes that we've seen from practice and some of the times that we've seen them get into games have been very, very impressive.
And a new name, Tristan Souza, who is a transfer from Washington State, has gotten a lot of first-team reps in practice at the defensive tackle spot as well.
Should be noted that we just saw the USA Today Offensive High School Player of the Year from last season. Lamar Sperling just ripped off about a 48-yard run to flip the field, and that's Mike DePillo in at quarterback now with the twos.
I think
Lamar's about to be very tasty this year.
That's the first Lamar Sperling mention of the year, and I sense it's not going to be the last, because I think as spring practice has gone on, he has settled in more and become a more prominent part of what you're seeing from this offense.
Well,
and I know everybody in this booth is like, bring it on.
Well, okay, first of all, new coaching staff. And let's rewind to last year, because we were very excited about this player coming in. Yeah, there's going to be a learning curve, but we wanted to see something. And they seemed determined not to really use him at all last year. And
he got hurt.
And he got hurt.
Right.
But from your conversations about the way he was perceived last year, do you have any real information on why we didn't see him? Yes, injury is a factor.
I do think it was a big step up. Yeah. I do think that as good as he was at the high school level, and you could easily say Ohio high school, that's as close to college football. But he was a young player, and I think
he ran for 3,000 yards.
No, I'm not denying any of that. I just think that you know how it is, that you've got to run to the right place. You got to learn how to block. You got to follow. You got to be good. You got to be good in the meetings. You got to be good in practices. I'm not sure
they didn't quite trust him yet.
Right. Thank you, Brad. You just said what I was trying to say in 80 words. You said it in 5.
That's what I'm here for, man.
So, and again, that's a very logical. Again, red shirt was what he needed to just get settled in. And now that he's not thinking as much, and he's being the player that ran for 3,000 yards, we might start to see more of that.
That was the one guy I was most worried about transferring, by the way.
Yeah, well, yeah.
That was the biggest smile that came to my face, was that he is still on this roster, and I see a much bigger role this year for him.
He looks like he's trimmed down a little bit. He's got some of the baby fat off of him from coming out of high school, and in these spring practices, and especially that last run, he looks, first of all, like he's healed from the injury, but second of all, he looks fast. He looks real fast, and that is something good. I love seeing a running back out there in 32 again. That just warms my heart, and I'm excited to see him, because really it should be a three-way type of situation with Al-J Henderson, who is another guy last year. What happened?
He was hurt in fall camp, and then
he was awesome. And then they didn't let him play again.
Right.
And Jaquez Barksdale, who is that big physical back that we saw really make some hay between the tackles. And then obviously, as we've been talking about Lamar Sperling, I think that's a really good three-man rotation there. LJ, kind of a mix of them both. Barksdale, the physical guy that you need in short yardage. And then Lamar can really turn the corner on some of those plays last year where Big Mike couldn't. I think Lamar is going to be able to.
Yeah, and in this day and age, as you talked about, nobody has one back, right? There's always you better have 2, 3. I'm not even talking injuries. I'm just talking a normal situation.
Yep.
They're never the days of one guy gets all the carries. Oh my God,
gone.
long gone. So yes, I think all 3 of those guys are going to see a good share of the carries.
And I think Pete LMO has been a head coach long enough through his career that he's seen a lot of guys like this, and ultimately he sees the talent there, and he recognizes the talent, and he knows that it's his job to make that talent be the most that it can be. And you got a new running backs coach, so it's a clean start for Lamar Sperling. I don't think there's any denying the talent that the kid has. And I think Pete LMO's smart enough to go, we need to get that kid on the field. We need to help him do whatever he needs to do to be successful.
Well, and along those same lines, you want to talk about a talent. It's a talent to keep a guy who clearly was frustrated with his role last year here. It would have been very easy for him to say, you know what, this Buffalo thing didn't work out. People were telling me I shouldn't do this anyway. I got here. They don't care. They're not using me. And, yeah, it's a new coaching staff, but why am I going to stay up here again? For Pete to be able to come in and convince that guy, Mr. Ohio football, that this is the place for him to be is certainly a good sign for the way he's able to communicate with young players.
Just a big catch there by one of the other guys that I think you're going to be excited about, Victor Snow. Just made a reception out there. Now it's going to be brought back because of penalty, but still
a nice catch.
Still nice. And there's the one thing that you've seen in the spring, because you can't teach, right, is speed.
Yep.
And I think he's going to be a player that is going to be a very pleasant surprise at the receiving corps.
He has been on with the first team as the slot receiver for the entire camp, and honestly, I was surprised when I saw that at the early practice because we did not see that last year. He was a gadgety jet sweep kind of guy, but again, here's a coaching staff that comes in and goes, wait a minute, this is our fastest and most athletic guy. I don't care that he's 5'8", if that. We're going to get him on the field because he has something that nobody else does, which is speed. And again, I think that's a name that Bulls fans are going to get used to and hopefully be very pleased to see him make some big plays. And we know in the MAC, doesn't matter how big you are, if you're fast, really fast, you can be successful in this conference.
The threes are out here right now, and that's Richie Watts at quarterback, the California kid. Another kind of gadget guy that we might see a little bit, Messiah Birch, number 13. He lines up in the backfield, but he's really fast, and he can play wide receiver as well. Just kind of one of those Swiss Army knife kind of guys that the Bulls might be able to use. I don't want to say he's Deebo Samuel, but I'm just saying as far as the way that they've used him just on the last 5-6 plays.
Well, I just had to consult the program to find out who little number 13 is in the backfield because that's something I haven't seen before.
Yeah, they've already had him on a wheel route on the play that Snow made a really nice grab, and he's fast and he's dangerous, but he's also physical enough to take some beating if you've got to line him up and you can bring him back into the backfield to run a couple balls.
I don't know much about Richie Watts, but I like the way he throws the ball. So far on this drive, the pass that Bob alluded to Victor Snow and another just bullet pass completed just now. So
JUCO guy, College of San Mateo, California kid through and through, really quick release on his pass, and he had really great stats out there. And JUCO came east, and listen, this is an opportunity with a new staff to go out there, and with no clear starter, this is the type of situation in this type of game where you could make a name for himself, and you're right, he's got good zip on some of these passes so far.
Mark Anthony Scott, by the way, the fourth running back, one we haven't talked about yet, had a nice, pretty nice run there. So that's another running back that I think will be in the mix this year.
How is the overall stable of running backs compared to what we've been used to over the past 15 years or so? I mean, obviously you're not going to know until you get into the season, but do you feel as good about the position as we tend to most years when dealing with the Bulls?
Yeah. I mean, I like Lamar. I like Barksdale. I like LJ. I know that they've lost some guy. You know, Ron Cook is a guy who we lost by graduation. Mike Washington is a guy who left into the portal. Kedzior was a guy who last fall camp really kind of flashed a little bit but got hurt. He's had a lot of injury problems. He's also lost to the portal. But, you know, Mark Anthony Scott is a good guy. Oh, there's a nice little interception. Tip ball by the line. Oh, God, don't hurt the quarterback. Okay. On the return. Tip ball
That's
pick.
the Buffalo kid, Jaden Lewis, from Bennett High School with the tipped interception.
But, yeah, the running backs, I feel comfortable. Feel good at that position. They got good depth. They got guys. And like a guy like Messiah Birch, also kind of swimming around in there who can come in and make some plays as well.
And we saw spurts of Alj Henderson 2 years ago.
He was awesome,
And he had
Paul.
that long run against UMass. He had a nice touchdown against Maryland.
Yes.
And again, as Scott said, he got banged up a little bit early in the year and then just sort of got lost on the depth chart. But I think that's a kid, 300 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns in 2022, that with a full workload, to me, is a nice mix of speed and size.
If they can fix or if they can find a consistent situation at quarterback, Paul, he could go for a K. Mm-hmm. He could go for a K. And really, I think the only reason why he might not is because of the depth.
Yeah.
It might be a situation where he runs for 750 and Lamar's got 500.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
what does the group run for? Is what you might be looking for at the end of the year.
Kind of moneyballing the whole situation together, finding the group there.
We just need to get a 100-yard rusher, which we didn't have last year, and that streak came to an end. So
there's a lot of talk about this offense, and right now the defense leads 12-0 with this goofy little scoring system
Here's
they've got
Alj Henderson
going on, but not
with a
anymore.
touchdown.
Give it to him.
Oh,
Mac
1 yard
refs.
line.
Mac refs, folks.
Who's this?
Listen, it's spring. They're in full season mode right now. They are in.
But
This
there's
is
Al.J.
October level
Henderson out of the
matchup.
backfield
Yes.
on a little
Yep.
flare route, and he runs the last 15 yards. Should have been 16 to get a touchdown. Instead, it's 1st and goal from the 1. This is the first-team offense with C.J. Agbana at quarterback.
About a minute 15 left in the first quarter as the Bulls try to get in and get stuffed there.
D tackles. Those are the
but
D
it's,
tackles right
And that
there.
was a problem last year, too.
The defense leads 12-0.
Short
At the
yardage,
end of the
short
first quarter, we are going to be joined by Jim McNally, legendary offensive line coach with ties, of course, to the UB program. He's around all the time. Fun guy to talk to. He's down on the field, and we'll check in with him in just a bit. This whole thing that we're doing is brought to you by Hyundai. I'm the one in charge of remembering to say that, so every now and then I'm going to mention Hyundai. Shout out to you, Hyundai. We love you. Love you, Hyundai.
Quick name mention on that first down defensive play. It was the slot corner by the name of Oliver Bridges, a transfer from Cincinnati, who has jumped out to me at practices and is getting first-team reps here as a guy that could be in the mix defensively.
And that's a touchdown. Agbana rolling to his right, and he found Nick McMillan in the corner of the end zone for a score.
Another guy we're excited about.
That's
right?
your breakout player.
That's-
right
that's
there.
my
it.
guy.
I love
Nick
love
McMillan.
it.
I think Nick McMillan could be the best wide receiver in the conference this year.
Wow.
He showed me enough last year where he would have been in that conversation last year had he not gotten injured in the middle of the year. He can go in the slot. He's a big enough body where he can dominate on the outside if you want him out there. He is fast. He has great hands, just really instinctual. I absolutely love what McMillan could turn into here if they can find a consistent quarterback to get him the ball and a scheme that can, unlike last year, find a way to get the best players the football when they need to.
Well, and I think he can be a really good yards after catch guy.
Oh, my
for
God,
you.
yes.
Just he's got it seems, really good sense of accelerating into the catch while breaking away. And we saw that on display a few times last year. Would love to see more of it this year. I'll tell you who else I'm excited about is Tajee Johnson. Tajee Johnson is Najee Johnson's brother, and he's huge. It's listed 6'3", 217. He looks like a big scary monster, like a DK Metcalf style body out there, and really impressed me at the indoor scrimmage a couple weeks ago. Him on the field at the same time with McMillan, it looked like an NFL set of wide receivers, which is I think something that would play pretty well in the MAC.
He's
Transfer
been running,
from BC.
Yeah, he's been running first team all camp with McMillan and Snow as the other two receivers. And again, a big physical target. Played it a little bit, didn't play a ton, had 11 catches in his career at BC. But, you'd like to think he'll come down here. He'll see a different level of coverage, different level of corner, where he can take advantage of his speed and his size. And again, bloodlines, Najee's one of the all-time great defensive backs in UB history and one of our all-time favorites now in the NFL as a scout with the Texans and just an all-around great guy. So you're at least getting all those good qualities with his brother Tajee.
And you look at that, height-wise, outside guy, you like having that 6'3", 6'1" guy. Then you have Snow that can run the slot, and that gives a lot of room in the middle of the field for a guy like Snow.
Absolutely.
We're taking a look down there. We've got Jim McNally, kind enough to join us. He's down on the field. Coach, can you hear us? Mouse, hello. He's turning the mic on. It's coming. It's going to happen. We're going to wave to him and say hello. Hi, Jim. There he is.
Yeah, there we go.
There he is.
We're still number
He
one.
said hello to us as well.
All right,
Only Jim could do.
I can't hear you, though.
He can't hear us. He can't hear us.
Is he talking to me?
We're trying to talk
We're
to him.
working on it.
We're trying. At some point, this is going to work. It'll be fine.
I should be able to hear because I got
All
hearing
right,
aids.
can you hear us now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we can hear him.
Yes.
Hi there.
You got you.
Hello. Hello, Jim. No.
We got you loud and clear.
I don't think it's got anything to do with
Yeah.
All right. Let's cut
Just,
Jim for a
tell him
minute.
to keep talking. Just tell Jim down there to just tell Mouse to keep talking. We'll cut him off when we're done with him.
What a-
So,
Okay.
You got us
You
now?
got us
They
now.
can hear me. Yeah, they can hear you. Yeah, okay.
all right. So how's your head coaching debut going so far?
My coaching debut, I already made 6 adjustments, and I adjusted some coverage, and I put in a couple of new plays. I went right out on the field and put in about 4 new plays, so they're going to run them in the next series.
That should allow the offense to get back in this thing. Nice drive there to
Okay,
make it.
so what else you want me to talk about? Anything?
I would like to know what you think of the new coaching
Can they hear
staff
me?
and the new vibe.
I love the new coaching staff. I love the head coach, Coach Lembo. knows everything about everybody's position. He's a great game adjustment guy. You know, when to punt, when to go for it, when to kick the field goal, all that kind of stuff. I think he is a tremendous coach. He's won every place he's been. He's been a big-time assistant. He's been the head coach at 3 places, and I think he's terrific.
Do you have a sense of what the vibe of the program is like under the new head coach compared to where we were a year ago?
What do you think about the vibe of the program compared to a year ago?
Oh, 1,000,000 times better. This coach is an upgrade 1,000,000 times. How high can you count? Upgrade him that high. Okay.
Mouse, what are you up to these days, football-wise? Your relationships with teams all around the world.
I'm big on Twitter. I got about 20,000 followers. I put out a lot of football techniques. I do some camps. I do a few clinics. I go out to lunch with my buddies. I spend a lot of time going to the doctors. Just what an 80-year-old guy does.
One more thing. I know he worked with Gabe Wallace a little bit, who's up for the draft, obviously, today. What's his feeling on Gabe's potential at the pro level?
Any thoughts on Gabe Wallace's potential at the pro level?
Well, I think he's got the potential for somebody to, take him, whether they take him as a free agent or a late-round draft choice. So I think he's got as much a chance as any of our guys that have been taken, by an NFL team.
All right. Hey,
all right.
Enjoy the rain down there, Jim. Thank you very much. Mouse McNally, kind enough to join us here on the during the spring game.
He's got 20,000 Twitter followers. We can't get the headsets to work.
He does like workout videos. Have you seen this stuff?
Yes.
It's
Yeah,
crazy.
he's a maniac. It's amazing.
He dances. He does all the stuff. He's like a TikTok guy.
He is one of the best football follows. I think it was 2 weeks ago. He just spent almost 2 days straight. I'm not sure if he slept, talking about the duo concept.
Of course.
Yeah.
And that was it. And another reason why he's so good, especially for a young coach, if you want to follow along, he's got tape from like the 1997 Cincinnati Bengals.
Oh, yeah.
And be like, this is the best guy who I
I need
ever
you to
saw.
do it like Anthony Munoz.
Yeah, this is what we did back then. He's got college tape. He's got every possible permutation of tape. He's got pros. He's got, he was ripping out Steelers tapes and Bills tape from practice. It's really fun to see him get on there, and he's definitely not shy about his opinion. I mean, obviously you saw there. Yeah. He'll tell you if you stink.
Yeah.
And he'll tell you if he really likes you. And I think he really likes Coach Lembo and the new staff.
Top 5 offensive line coach of all time.
Oh,
if you said
top
the top
3,
5,
probably,
yeah,
yeah.
he's right. He's
And I think there's another point that Pete Lembo has done a great job of reconnecting with a bit of the history of this program
Yes,
and
sure.
the alum. Now, there's Coach Mouse as an example, but it goes well beyond that. It's alums from the last 5 years, 10 years, 15. Pete has made it a point to get to know who they are, to welcome them in anytime you want to come to practice, anytime you want to come to the building. I give Pete a lot of credit, and this, again, goes back to he's been a coach before. He understands that's part of his job. You have to connect with those people, not only because they are the ones that sort of built the foundation for you, but in this day and age, you want to get them involved and engaged, and whether it's the ability to help NIL opportunities or funding, that's all part of it too. That's all part of a head coach's job. And I've heard from so many UB football alums that they have been enjoyed so much of, whether it's a Zoom call or a phone call or a lunch or just, hey, stop by the football facility anytime you want.
I've also heard like the local high school coaches.
Yes.
That is not that there is a ton of talent, but you just mentioned one from South Park that makes a play. Nick McMillan, right?
There you
go.
go.
You gotta at least get those guys. And I've heard local coaches say, this is the first coach. It was like one of his first week on the job.
Yes.
Reached out to the local high school
local
coaches.
Well, I would like to go back. I don't expect everybody listening or watching is privy to the initial Zoom call that he did. I mean, maybe the day after he got hired. That I know we all watched. I don't know if you guys participated in it live, but right after it ended, I watched it, and it was, 50 or 60 former players and just alumni of the school and donors, and just, hey, hi, I'm Pete. Here's what I'm thinking. What are you guys thinking? I'd like to welcome you. And there were so many things that came out of that. I haven't watched it in 2 months, but it really stood out to me that this guy believed in embracing the community of the program as opposed to operating on an island trying to get out of here.
Takes a village.
And I've watched him. I've watched the way he's dealing with sponsors here in the stadium. You know, people are in here. He comes over. He gives you half an hour of his time. You didn't ask for it. He just wants to meet the people who want to support the team because he wants to support them. And it's just the foundation that he's in the process of building and started right from day one. It's like, all right, we can have a foundation. We just have to tap into it. And that's not something that is always thought of. So it's just really impressive the way he carries himself. And again, I'll go back to the last time they made a great hire at head coach for the football program, and it was Lance Leipold, who had a ton of success at a different level, of course. But right after he came in, the thought was, there's a chance they just hired the best coach in America. I don't think Pete LMO is definitely necessarily the best coach in America. He doesn't have the crazy winning record that Lance Leipold had. But he might be the best coach in the MAC, and he was probably the best coach that they could have gotten in this situation. And that is good enough for me. So I don't know. I've been very impressed, and we're tying back to when the program made sense, when they did things that made sense, when they did things that were growing, and it was on the way up, and that's what it looks like again.
Credit to you, because you said that to us when the Bulls hired Lance Leipold,
Yeah.
and I think we all said, okay, guess what? There were more than one article that's been written in the last 6 months on the college football level ranking the best coaches in the country, where Lance Leipold was solidly in the top 5 of every single one of them.
Yeah, it's crazy.
He's winning at Kansas, man.
That's right. To follow up on Bob's point, I felt like I saw high school coaches at almost every practice that I was at. And here's something you to think about. Yes, we generally don't produce a ton of Division I football players in Western New York. Yet, how many names over the past have been guys that have been local? The Sean Dolaks, the Cole Snyders, there's more, the Nick McNally you mentioned, Joe Licata, who have become very prominent players for this program. And guess what? In the world that you're in now, those prominent players may not come here out of high school, but they may decide at some point in their career they would like to come back and play in their hometown via the transfer portal, and the opportunity is there to have established those relationships very early on.
It always starts at home. Again, you got to win. You can't have, again, even if there's just a few each year, you got to get those guys. And again, I think that's a positive that we've seen, as you mentioned, day one, right from day one.
You get those guys, and then that establishes to the next year's players that this place is an option, that this is a place worth considering. And then now you've done it 2 years, and now it just becomes a thing. Like, maybe that's my place. And yeah, I don't begrudge any kid who has a chance to use football to go to school out of state and a bigger place. I get it. But having a respectable program that shows respect for the local high schools, it all builds together.
I'm looking at the starting offense right now, and there are 4 Western New Yorkers rolling out right now on our starting offense. Tyler Doty at guard, Nick McMillan, Victor Snow is a Rochester kid, and I'm forgetting who the other one I think on the offensive line here that's a Jake Orlando at tight end. So there you go. There are 4 first-team offensive players with ties to Western New York.
Schnackenberg getting some run here with the ones at tight end, as well as Gunnar Gray.
Got his arm hit as he went back to pass there.
Devin
Morgan, defensive tackle, one of those young guys.
I know the depth, we haven't talked a lot about defense here so far, but depth right now has to be a concern at defensive end, just in the fact that coming into this game, there was 4 on the roster, and one of them left on the first drive. Nick Roy got hurt. He's from Canada, so it could be Wah. Sorry. I don't know. Not 100% sure.
We'll have that right for you.
But I'm going to go with Roy because right now,
I'm not sure
Stars and Stripes.
I'm not sure if it's Patrick's kid or Derek's, so it could go either way.
Right. They're going to need some help there. I would assume that the portal is going to be a place, and plus some of the younger players coming in, once they get here, will have an impact. But if they wanted to, they could probably just play 4 defensive tackles and have 4 wide bodies out there.
Devin Morgan was playing defensive end on that last series.
And can get to the quarterback. So you could just say, look, you're not going to run on us. period.
We just saw
and figure out from there.
Just saw a terrific, 35-yard back shoulder catch from Gunnar Gray to Nick McMillan.
And Gunnar was in contention last year to be the backup. And I think Agbana's athleticism probably put him over a little bit with the last coaching staff with what he could do, but Gunnar Gray has looked pretty good.
It's still an open competition. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely.
He throws the best ball out of any of the current Bulls quarterbacks.
He just
yeah,
scored.
you know,
But
and again,
technically, he would have gotten blown up there about 5-yard gain, so they bring it back.
And we haven't talked about Deion Crawford and Red Murdoch at linebacker yet, and I know how
Let's
much
talk about
you
Deion and
love
Red.
those guys.
Okay? These dudes ball. That's why I like them. These guys play football, all right? If you want linebackers, I want a guy named Red playing linebacker. Like, end of discussion. Now, if
I prefer a guy named Hacksaw, but I'll take Red.
Listen, red is good enough for me, okay? It's the color of blood, and that's what he's after. If you think last year when he got in there when Dolek got hurt, they started to play him a little bit more, how many times did we talk about the fact that when he came on a blitz, he was getting to the quarterback? End of discussion. He could not be blocked on some of those blitzing situations. So, again, when we talk about depth at defensive end, could be another guy where you might, on third down, you might want to roll Red out there and stand him up and come off of the edge. And then Deion, as the season went along, got so comfortable in that position coming in, playing next to Andreessen, who is gone, who, by the way, I think is probably going to be a free agent here today by the end of the day. Had an amazing pro day here out in the field house, but I feel really good about those two guys at linebacker for sure.
And in this day and age, you usually just play two linebackers.
Right.
So if you got two really good ones, those are your starters, and they're playing the majority of the time. And right now, I'm looking at two pretty good ones that I'm very, very comfortable with Murdoch and Crawford.
Yeah, I think if we're talking about the defense, that's probably where I start the conversation, is with those two guys, about what I'm excited about. And it's with two guys at that position, which is pretty cool. So I'm thinking about the season. Last year, just started in a hole and never really were able to escape it. But
October was okay, but
I'm saying September. September was a problem that you couldn't escape.
November's been a 3-year problem.
Yeah.
Well, how long was Mo here?
That was 3.
Yeah, so no wins.
No wins.
No wins. 3 years.
And FCS losses the last 2 years. Granted, as we've laid out, very good FCS teams, but you're not supposed to lose to your FCS teams.
You got to beat the Patriot League.
This
You
year,
know what I mean?
This year is another good team.
Yep.
Yeah, Lafayette's good.
Lafayette was, a team that went 9-3 and beat Fordham last year, who was one of the teams that came in here and won. So this Lafayette team, it's August 29th, the home opener against Lafayette, and that is, a decent team.
I think there's a new rule in college football that if you lose to the Patriot League 3 times in a row, you're in it.
It's relegation.
So
Lafayette.
So I think Pete's gonna have his sights set on Lafayette. So I'm looking at the schedule to start. Lafayette here at Mizzou, home against UMass, and then the other out-of-conference game is at UConn 2 weeks later. That doesn't sound like it's going to get us run over in the same way that it did last year.
No, you have a real opportunity.
Missouri, remember, beat Ohio State.
Yeah,
they are the reigning Sugar Bowl champions.
They are pretty good.
Right.
But there's one of them.
They're going to be a top 10 team, a preseason top 10 team as well, too. So
take it, Paul.
Well, we talked to one of the honorary coaches. The other honorary coach, at least you, unlike McNally, Craig Serus, know how to handle yourself on the sidelines without getting too worked up. What's it like to be back, at least in this kind of head coaching mode?
Hey, it feels like old times, huh, Paul?
It sure does, and old and good times. It's good to have you back in your natural spot. How excited were you when Coach Lembo said, I want you to lead the squad here today?
Well, it certainly was an honor. I never expected it, and I think he's off to a really good start. So a lot of fun to be back here amongst a lot of excited players and coaches.
What's been your initial impressions of Pete? I don't know whether you knew him or knew of him much before this.
I didn't know much of him before this, but met him at a basketball game, and some of our past associations crossed paths previously, so it was nice to reconnect on the different people that we've worked with that know each other, and very excited to see him come to Western New York and find a place here.
Do you see this program on an upswing? It seems like it was, it took a while to build and build, going back to when you were the head coach here, and we jumped up to FBS or whatever it was, Division I football at the time, 1A. A little bit of a dip for a couple of years, but there's something that feels right about what's going on here right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's a lot of excitement on the sideline, a lot of excitement with the coaching staff. I was told to report early here this morning, so I got around the coaches and the staff, and there seems to be a lot of progress so far. And the program itself, from the days when we started it as a 1AA, as we called it back in the day, to today, obviously significant improvement.
Talking with former Bulls head coach Craig Serus, one of the honorary head coaches for today's Blue-White scrimmage. Craig, we just talked a couple minutes before you came on here about how impressed we have been for Pete making a significant effort to connect with the alumni and with the high school coaching community. You certainly can speak to that better than any of us. How important, how beneficial is that for the Buffalo Bulls head coach?
Well, you hit it right on, Paul. It's vital, critical. As we all know, we're always feeling good about our coaching ability, but at the end of the day, it comes down to the players. And to be able to recruit in Western New York and the different areas that they recruit, to connect with the local area coaches, and to have a strong alumni network that we have, and be interactive with the team and to care, a vital component to help get kids jobs, help to support the program. And Pete seems like he's dove into that full speed.
You got any crazy trick plays ready to? Although I guess knowing you like I know you, a crazy trick play for Craig Serus might be a fullback dive.
Well, those are all secrets here for the second half. You'll have to stay tuned.
All right. Always good to see you. Always good to have you back around this program. One of the all-time fun and great faces for UB football, Craig Serus, former head coach from the 90s. Have fun here leading the squad here in the second half.
Thank you very much, Paul. It's good to still have you with the program.
I appreciate that.
You're
Thank you.
Wonderful ambassador.
Thank you very much. Craig's a fun guy, and
we need to talk. How much did you pay Craig?
This program,
what's going on here?
The core of this program is what Craig did in a very difficult job, being hired to be a 1AA head coach, and then all of a sudden being told, "Oh yeah, now you're a 1A head coach," but we really don't have everything we need to be a good 1A program. Craig was the guy that took a lot of those bullets.
My first year in radio, full time. So I started at GR when Bob hired me in 97. But then I went over to BEN in 98, and one of the things that we had, I was a producer of Bulldog Show. We had the Craig Serus Show, and they had just flipped, and it was rough, man. It was an hour a week, and they were getting smoked, and it was just him going, guys, we don't really have the same resources as the other. And it was just every week after week of that. I felt bad for him. I'm very happy he, bit the bullet and went through all of that for, to get the program to where it is. But I just remember, oh God, here he comes, and it's going to be an hour of this. And man, it's just like we don't have buses. We don't. It was crazy.
And it's funny because here we are 30 years later talking about resources in college football and how they help you win and how you have to build them up to a better place, right? That story hasn't changed.
Right. It's the same week that we're talking about a collective being formed for the NIL situation here in Buffalo, and what he was up against to fight through and get us to a point where we can enjoy some D1 college football.
Quick note for you I want to mention. Anthony Pollacare, walk-on quarterback from Binghamton, New York, is out right now. He is a third-generation Bull. I think this is, aside from having known the family, his grandfather wrestled here in the 70s. His dad played quarterback for Craig Serus in the 90s. And here's third-generation Anthony Pollacare, walk-on quarterback running the offense.
Can we go back to the schedule for a second?
Yes.
There are 8 teams that the Bulls play this year that were under 500 last year. So, and again, teams change from year to year to year. Well, I'm not counting. I'm counting Lafayette as a winnable game as well, even though they were above 500. So the schedule, to your point, other than Missouri,
Right? Yeah, I'm not.
is not as daunting as It's definitely possible for this team to have the realistic goal of becoming bowl eligible or
And
something.
you can't really talk about the schedule either without acknowledging that the MAC has changed their scheduling format.
Yeah, good point.
The divisions are gone. So now everybody's in pods. The Bulls every year will play Akron and Kent. Cool. And then it's weird to see our schedule this year. There's so many traditional West Division teams on there.
Yeah.
But the pod system is cool because now when you come here and play in the MAC, you'll have a chance to play everybody and play everywhere. It rotates the schedule a little bit more evenly than what it had been.
I hadn't thought of that. 5 teams that used to be West are just on the schedule this year. It's weird.
We just got them on the schedule. here
Northern,
this year.
Western, Ball
I
State,
wonder what
Eastern.
crazy person voted to have that change happen. Oh, wait. He's right over here.
Oh,
Oh, there he is.
hi, Mark. It's Mark Alnutt, everybody.
Yeah, my ears were burning. What's going on, guys?
How are
What
things?
are we talking about? Things are well.
Well, we've been singing your praises. We like the new coach. We like the schedule. We like
There
the
you go.
pods.
There
We
you go.
like UMass coming into the conference. There's been a lot happening since we last
there
talked
has
to you.
been a lot happening. First and foremost, thanks guys for being able to broadcast and appreciate all that you guys do. Wish you guys could have done a little bit something better with the weather, but it has, kind of slowed down out there. The rain is gone. We have a good crowd.
I don't see
out
umbrellas
here.
anymore.
Yeah,
Okay.
we have a good
Great
crowd
crowd
out here, checking things out. First of all, Pete LMO, his staff. Just in terms of how they approach this new situation, just a little bit of outreach, just in terms of how they approach this situation, how they've, really put together structure, organization, how they've developed our student athletes, getting them to the point of the spring game today. I'm very excited where we are. Obviously the next step of all this is to continue recruiting in this day and age that we have with the transfer portal and everything associated with that. Obviously summer workouts will be here before we know it, and then we'll be back at it with the fall preseason camp in August, and then first game, Lafayette. So we're obviously taking one game at a time, but listen to what you guys were talking about coming in. I'm excited about the new pod system, the elimination of East to West. It was something that the conference has been talking about for the past probably about a year or so, and then just wanted to go ahead and make that move. And really what it is to be able to position the 2 best teams in the championship game and try to put forth the best team possible, whoever wins that championship game from a CFP standpoint. There's a lot of factors that goes into CFP, but now with the extended CFP going to 12 teams, having the opportunity to be the highest ranked group of 5 program, obviously it's going to be a combination of strength and schedule, what you do in the non-conference, but also be able to take care of business within your conference. So we have the pod system set where our partners are going to be Akron and Kent State, and then the old monkey wrench, as a good monkey wrench, so to speak, adding UMass. I'm excited about UMass's addition to the MAC for a variety of reasons. I think they bring strength in plenty of areas, and also feel that adding their football programs would be beneficial for the MAC, and also for them as well, now being associated with the conference. Now, who knows what's going to happen with that pod? We don't know, but one thing in terms of initial conversations is that UMass and Buffalo will always be a part of that. So whether it becomes a 4-team pod, since there's 13 teams with UMass, Buffalo, Kent State, Akron, or not, we'll get it going.
I vote yes on
Yeah,
that.
we'll take
That
it.
sounds
We'll
great
take
to
it.
me.
We'll bite the bullet for everybody else. We'll take it.
You know what's
There you
interesting,
go.
Mark?
There you
is-
go. Messiah Burks. I tell you what, his
Uh-huh.
move to
He's
running
looked
back.
good today.
I tell you, he's done a great job this entire spring. I know. Paul's been to some practices, and he's seen it. He can probably echo what
Yeah,
we've all seen.
him and Victor Snow
Yeah,
are kind of the
yeah.
same player, and I'm intrigued by what they bring to the table and how the coaches are going to use them.
Well, I mean, he's made that move fully to running back. Last year he was a wide receiver. Staten Island guy. Pete's a Staten Island guy, so Staten Island guys know Staten Island guys, and put them in the right spot. It looks like.
Pete seems to know everybody. It's interesting. I've watched the way he interacts. And
Yeah.
Anybody brings up anything about anything, he's got a guy that he knows from there, and it's just a product of being around a while. But I think it's also a product of being a person who cares about people and pays attention.
His
And
personality, just genuine relationships. That's what you're going to see with Pete, and that's resonated with so many people here that's interacted with him, whether it's our alumni here, our fans, people in the university. So it's been good. But you're right. I mean, you mentioned one name, and then more importantly, not the name. It's the location. So you mentioned
Yes.
a town, a city, state, or what have you. He'll hey, do you know Joe, or do you know Bob, or how about Susie? Just
Yes.
run into Susie. You know, it's him. It's his personality, and it's obviously it's a great asset to have.
it's been a while, but I don't think had a conversation with you about it. The process of hiring Pete, does it take 5 minutes? Because 5 minutes with Pete, I'd hire him to do anything that he told me he could do. Was it super clear and obvious that this was the right man for the program when you went through that process?
It was the right person for the program. Just where the program was and what we felt the program needed. So it was, as you saw, he was named. I want to say within 4 days of the previous coach moving on. So, but a lot of those factors, qualities, he checked all the boxes. Someone who knew the MAC, someone who has familiarity with MAC, someone who's been around some highly successful programs, and I think last but not least, someone who can really engage, all of our constituents to help, build this program.
You when you brought up the pod system and going to this, you said it's been in the works for a while, and I was waiting for it to be a much longer while than you said, about a year. But doesn't that really speak to the movement in college athletics and the rate at which it happens? The change is so fast that you don't have time to sit around and think about this for a couple of years. You have an idea, it's time to execute it right away because things are going to change on you, right? I mean, it's different from even when you got here.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Brad. I mean, yeah, I do chuckle about that. I did say a while, then said 12 months, 18 months, whatever the case might be. But it's been something that, just we want to be proactive. We want to really think forward, and we also want to position how we feel, is best for the MAC. And I know there's those long-standing rivalries from a not necessarily per institution, but East versus West. But that's changed, and we have opportunity again, like I said, put our best foot forward. Now, for us, we don't really have that natural rivalry, but if you go into the composite schedule and really analyze and look at it, a lot of those traditional rivalries are still intact. The Miami, the Ohio, obviously the Akron, Kent, the Bowling
BG
Green,
Toledo.
Bowling Green, Toledo. But for us, again, that's why I'm really excited about UMass to really have a true rival with that program.
All right, you're telling me to hate UMass? I can hate UMass, no
Listen,
problem.
I feel like we've been here long enough now in the conference. I just hate everybody. We don't have a specific rival, but I just want to beat everybody.
Well, I'm looking at these West teams going, I remember seeing them at Ford Field. I got a problem with what has gone down a couple times at Ford Field.
I do not like Northern Illinois
I got
or Ball
some
State.
things.
Yeah,
Sure.
no, exactly right. I think it's one of those things where, and I think also too when we put together this pod system, it was that every program was going to see all 11 opponents, within a 3-year period. So, again, from a familiarity standpoint, from a, there's some programs that had not played, if you're in the West, had not played a team in the East for, 8 years, 9 years, because again, how that schedule, rotated. But this is good.
It's going to be cool too for the championship game, like you said, to get the two best teams and the best chance. But you're also now some of those rivalry games could be in the championship game. You could have UMass in the championship game, or a BG Toledo, which we would hate, but still it's possible.
There's Scott.
Mark Anthony Scott ripping off a 37-yard touchdown.
Good run. That was a nice hole opened up by the O-line up front.
Talk a little bit about the announcement you guys made this week about the new collective, the Nickel City Collective. But maybe for people who don't understand what it's all about, what it can do, what it's going to do, give us a little bit of the 101 on that.
Sure, Paul. It goes back to name, image, likeness, NIL that we talk about now. It's been established going on 3+ years. 2021 was established, opportunity for student athletes to actually make money based on their name, image, and likeness, building their brand. When it first came out, there was no really guardrails in terms of what it looked like or restrictions. the initial intent was, you have a high-profile student athlete, he can go to, for example, one of the dealerships and be able to endorse, that dealership. But what it quickly turned into, more than anything, was, outside entities, because athletics departments and universities couldn't do it, but outside entities, pulling together monies from alumni, from people on the outside, to be able to provide, opportunities for our student athletes to earn additional money. So for us, it's been a longer process to finally get to a collective where we have people on the outside that are so interested in being able to, help provide for our student athletes, that we were able to announce the Nickel City Collective. And the one thing I like about the Nickel City Collective is, if you go on the website and see, there's opportunities to donate. There's opportunity to donate to particular programs. There's opportunity to have a membership at various level, but through Blueprint Sports, which is the third-party provider that's doing this and helping out our board, our local board members that are here, there's opportunity for our student athletes to engage in name, image, and likeness opportunities through a nonprofit way. So, for example, it's not just paying Al J. Henderson $500 just to give him $500. Al J. will be tasked to go to the Boys and Girls Club to spend some time, read to kids after school, or whatever the case might be. So really what it is a combination of, yes, opportunity for our student athletes to earn a little additional income based on their name, image, and likeness, but more importantly, to also give back to the community through various nonprofit organizations. So a little different way to support our student athletes, but in this day and age, when we hear NIL all the time, we just want to make sure that we have, a platform, a robust platform, to be able to help, our student athletes earn a little additional income.
Do you see it being a bigger tool for retention or recruitment?
Both, Paul. I think, obviously we're not going to be able to match, the dollars that are getting handed out in the Big Ten or ACC or what have you. But I think if you have a student athlete that knows, number one, from a relationship standpoint, that you truly care about, him or her, you're doing the best you can to provide a incredible experience here at UB. But then now you have the opportunity to be able to reward them with name, image, likeness opportunities through the collective or other means. I think that goes a long way, because then they feel appreciated. So I think you'll have opportunities for retention, but then also too you'll have opportunities for recruiting student athletes. And again, not saying, hey Paul, if you come to UB, I got $10,000 for you, but it'll be more so, hey Paul, here's what we have in place. Here's some success stories that we have there, and you'll have the opportunity to, have that same type of success here.
One of my favorite, now I'll speak on Scott's behalf as well. One of my favorite things about the whole NIL situation is that it has finally allowed for the return of the college football video game that's been missing for 10 years.
Yes.
Can you tell me about, because here's what I've heard, tell me if this is correct. Every student athlete in FBS football was offered $600 and a copy of the game for their likeness to be used in the game, and unless you're a total square, you take that money because you want to be in the game, and you get the. Is that true?
Yeah, that is true. EA Sports offered a opt-in opportunity for all student athletes to be able to be in the game, and that was $600. That was also a copy of the video game. So whether it's Xbox or whether it's one of the PlayStation platforms or what have you, each kid had the opportunity to be able to do that, which, again, from a name, image, likeness standpoint, that's part of what the original intent, was, for it. So, yeah, we have that going, and very similar to you guys. Holy cow, NCAA 09
there we go.
Was my game.
Okay.
And I played 30 seasons. won my last champ. I was Mizzou. Won my last championship, and then after that, I had to change the team. They said no more Alnutt. Get a life. Do something different. I think it took about 6 years to do that, to play those 30 seasons. But no, just. For us to be able to obviously be a part of that, for our kids to be able to receive that, for them to be able to play, themselves in the games, for our fans to be able to play UB, and I'm excited for them. I'm excited for the return of that game.
Did you put yourself in the game?
Well, you know what? It was so back when we didn't know any better, and we had no idea what branding was. We had no idea. Good catch on the middle by Jake Orlando. We had no. no idea about branding. We didn't care about, quote unquote, getting taken advantage of. So I was actually a junior and senior. So this goes back to 94, 95 when the game first came out.
Mm-hmm.
And, they had our numbers. You kind of knew who you were because I was a backup tight end, so I wasn't one of the starting tight end. So I had to insert myself into the starting lineup and ran a route to throw to 41, and 41 drops it. I said, this game is so realistic. I mean, this is holy cow. This is
It's like they know me.
they know me. You think AI? It was like back then's AI. I was like, this is incredible. This is incredible. But no, it's honestly it's a thrill, for them to be able to do that, and I hope it's something that continues every year. Have an opportunity for them to opt in for this for that money.
Mark, I just bought a PlayStation 5 because that game's coming out and it's not going to be available on PlayStation 4. I had to bite the bullet.
Yeah,
because of that. So
I want to set up a Brad versus Mark little
my
showdown here,
Brad,
maybe on a road trip.
My thumbs, I got to get them. I got to get them back in the gym. Start getting ready, man. They're out of shape. They're not ready. They're not as good and quick and reactive like they used to be.
Hey, we're going to Missouri this year.
Yeah, we are. So it's going to be one of our 1958. It's going to be our 1958 premier trip. I know some people there, so we're going to be able to have a phenomenal first-class dinner that Friday night with our donors, give them opportunity to experience Columbia, and then play Mizzou the next day. But typical of football scheduling, right? That game was scheduled back in, finalized, scheduled, done, on the books back in May of 2018, right? Maybe June. So shortly after I got here.
I was going to say 5 minutes after you got here, we had a game against Missouri.
Call my buddy Barry Odom, who was a head coach, at the time there, and then, the chancellor at the Mizzou at that time was Chancellor Cartwright, who was the SUNY chancellor. So there was a connection there with Dr. Tripathi, and we were able to get that done. Now, when we got it done at that time, Mizzou was kind of like, middle of the road SEC team, kind of 6-6 type team. 7-6 win a bowl game type of team. So why not? And then now we're going in there and they got one of the top recruiting classes. They have, they're going to be probably a top 8 team. But you know what? Again, it's one of those things where we have to play those games. What a great experience is going to be for our student athletes to be in the SEC venue, for our fans to be able to go down there, and I know Pete's going to have our team prepared and ready to play that Saturday.
I went there once. My first year here was 08, and we played down there. It was Chase Daniels on the team, and Sean Weatherspoon and Jeremy Macklin was on the team. First year doing this, and happy to have a chance to go back and do it. And you're not alone in this happening, man. We watched as Baylor was on the schedule, and it was just fine.
They were terrible.
They were
awful.
Perfect. Yeah, it's gonna be hot, but it'll be fine.
Yeah.
And then it's Robert Griffin the third, the quarterback. This is not ideal.
And an offense that snapped the ball every 4.5 seconds.
That was a lot.
But that's part of scheduling. So
yeah.
All right.
We got to wrap you up, Mark, because Pete LMO is going to come on with us here as we approach halftime, first half here of the scrimmage. So looking forward to our usual visits with you in every pregame show and every road trip. So it'll be fun.
It'll be fun, guys. Good seeing you again, and it'll be here before we know it.
Sounds good.
All right, guys.
All right,
Take care.
Mark Alnutt, athletic director here at UB, joining us on the at the
Hyundai spring game.
Right. Hyundai spring game.
Defense leads 25-17 right now.
All right. 25. And again, the scoring system.
Offense is driving. This is a drive that's been led by C.J. Agbana. Some nice throws down the hash. Jake Orlando made a really nice catch. Taji Johnson made a nice catch on this drive as well. So we're seeing C.J. flex a little bit of muscle in the passing game in this 2-minute drill.
The scoring system is 25-17 defense out in front. The defense gets a point for stopping a drive. They get 3 points for a 3-and-out. They get 4 points for a takeaway, and they get 6 points for a defensive touchdown. So they got to work for it, but they can get them a chunk at a time, and that's where we are right now, 25-17 with 20 seconds to go.
Defense does have a tipped interception in this game, so they got some points there.
And a sack right now.
And they've gotten a couple of 3-and-outs.
Stewart, one of the defensive ends that you mentioned, Scott. Yeah, and the offense has gotten touchdowns from McMillan and Mark Anthony Scott and a field goal. That's how we got to our 17. So,
yeah, offensive scoring is just regular football.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, touchdowns are worth 6 today.
And that's the second time out here. 15 seconds left. Paul, let's just say this. It's interesting to be in this position right now as we're running through the scrimmage. There's 17 seconds left in the first half, and the Bulls had all 3 timeouts.
Hey,
on this drive. So that's going to be fun.
Positive.
That's cool. So they were able to stop the clock here on their first real negative play of this drive.
Yeah, I think in keeping an eye and a half here on the action on the field as we talk here, it a little inconsistent. I think from the first team and second team offense, we've seen some nice plays. We've seen some open receivers that were missed, seen a couple of decent runs, and we've seen the defense get in the backfield maybe a little more than if you're rooting for the defense as much as you'd like. If you're rooting for the offense, you wouldn't want to see quite that much. But again, I think we can ask Pete this question.
Who he's rooting for?
That's a good question too. The defense is a little bit ahead of the offense right now.
Back shoulder fade.
Oliver Bridges, there's my guy.
But all of the offensive players that we actually talked about have made at least one play.
Yep.
I think, Nick McMillan making a play. You mentioned Tajay Johnson. Sperling making a play. So everybody's kind of made a play that Victor Snow, that we all talked about.
All right, so a field goal attempt coming here with 14 seconds left in the half as the offense looks to cut the lead to 5. And again, we will be joined by Bulls head coach Pete LMO in just a few moments here at the spring game, brought to you by Hyundai. That looks good to me.
It is good.
And it is.
Nick Reed, 35-yard field goal. Again, Alex McNulty gone, off to the NFL, likely to be in someone's training camp by the end of the day today. Nick Reed, as Scott mentioned, likely to be the first-team kicker.
It is funny with kicker, though, where it's like, what do you think of him? No idea. Like, we'll see. You don't know. They could be great in practice and not be great in the games. You can find out that they can't kick the ball inbounds. You can find out, like McNulty, you can put it through the back of the end zone every time, but you don't know till they get out there in a regular game. You can hear all you want from coaches, from our buddy John Fuller, who sees a lot more of this stuff than we do. I don't know. So it's, you think about when McNulty developed as a weapon, it was borderline shocking to us. Like, wait, we're at the 41-yard line. We got a chance at a field goal right now? That was crazy.
I remember the broadcast, and they're like, we're bringing the field goal unit out for a 54-yard field goal?
Okay, good luck to you, buddy.
And then he nails
And then you find out that he's really a weapon.
So. And look at the path of his career. He gets that chance as a freshman and wasn't great even on extra points back then, and you didn't know what you were going to get. And then as he continued to develop, became the kicker that's the all-time record holder here at UB. And again, we'll see that with a first-time young kicker in Nick Reed. There might be a few moments where you want to cover your eyes early on, and you hope that he continues to get better and develops into a reliable kicker. And the craziness with kickers is they can develop into reliable kickers and then drop back down and lose it a little bit. So we've seen that over the years. But you watch, if you look at Alex's career path, it started and finished in a very good place. So it's halftime now, and that means we get a chance to talk to the head coach. Pete LMO is grabbing the microphone. Hello, Pete. Can you hear me?
I can, Paul. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine, loud and clear. All right.
Great job with the weather, Paul. I want to thank you.
Two of you played it, Paul.
A little sprinkle when we first came out here.
We're getting you ready for Buffalo weather, which
you have done a heck
you're going to
of a
get.
job. It's just a little breeze. It's dry as can be. I don't even know why I have this rain jacket on.
All right, your defense is ahead 25-20. Give me your halftime. Give me your best cliche-ridden halftime coming off the field.
Yeah, total transparency. So they came out and started playing really well from the start. We've been a little inconsistent at quarterback and receiver in the first half. Good to see some of our young running backs break off some big runs and help the offense get back into it. It was good to see a 2-minute drill there, and first time ever in my 32 years of having a 2-minute warning. So I got to get used to that.
That's right.
Get used to having an extra timeout. So that we wanted to make sure we incorporated that into the game as well. So just one ankle sprain so far, which is one too many, but it's good that Nick's going to be fine. We got him checked out, and he'll be ready for summer workouts. So far it's been competitive. I'd like to see a little bit more consistency from the offense here in the second half. and hopefully the defense can continue to play well.
With the second half still to come here today, just look back on all these practices and give me a sense of, again, you learning a team and then getting a team to learn you and your system. How has that progress gone?
Yeah, I have no complaints about the attitude, the morale, the positive energy in the building. These guys were bouncy this morning coming in here. They enjoy being around each other. They're enjoying being around their coaches. But it's good to come out here in the stadium in front of some fans and have to perform under some pressure. It's different than being in the indoor or being out here at 9:30 in the morning when it's just us. So you get to see some guys with a little bit more onus on them, a little bit more pressure on them, and how are they actually going to perform when literally you put the lights on.
Is it safe to say, because you have more veteran returning guys, that maybe your defense is a little ahead of your offense as we sit here at this point of the offseason?
I would say it looks that way today. I wouldn't necessarily say that was the case all spring. It was good to have some back and forth this spring in our previous scrimmages and in all of our practices. So we had some pretty good balance there. I would say if anything's behind, it's probably some of the special teams, just because a lot of that is very new to the guys, and we need to continue to build that foundation this summer and into preseason.
What's been your most pleasant surprise, whether it's personnel or something, or a player in particular? What's been your most pleasant surprise?
Our defensive tackles, I feel like we've got good depth there, and that's a position that at any level of college football is always a concern, and I like the fact that we can rotate some different guys through there. We've got some position flexibility, so a couple of those guys can bounce out and play defensive end as well as stay inside. So that's going to help us for sure when you think about a long season ahead.
I hope you knew you were getting into making McNally an honorary coach. How many crazy trick plays did you have to reject from him already today?
Yeah, no, he's been really well behaved today. His language has been good. He told me he was going to go up to the press box and he had some work to do. He's going to do some fundraising duties here in the second half and try to see if some of his old teammates brought their checkbooks with them.
All right, there you go. Hey, Pete, it's been a pleasure getting to know you and getting to see what your team is going to look like. We look forward to getting to August for real on the 29th. Thanks for a little bit of time here.
Okay, awesome. Great chatting with you guys. Thanks so much. I'm going to go back from one headset to the other.
There you go. That is Pete LMO, the Bulls' new head coach. Even in that 5-minute interview,
I don't like him. I just don't like him.
Not like him. How can you not feel like this is the guy that we're excited to have as our head coach?
It's the personality. You could see him walking into a person's living room and selling them. And it's just got that, what a
Without it feel like he's selling them.
No.
Doesn't feel like a sales guy. But, yeah, I mean, yes, I'm agreeing with you. But the reason it works is because he comes across as entirely genuine and confident in himself, but also humble at the same time. All of it works for me. And again, as if it needs to be said, what a difference from what was here before. Mark didn't say his name, the previous coach.
I noticed.
Right? You notice that?
I did notice
Well,
that. And,
but that's what happens when your dude quits a head coaching job to be an assistant somewhere. He walked out on you. You trusted him. You hired him.
He didn't say thank you.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he did.
Leave it at that.
Maybe he did to him. But I don't know.
Not to me.
Not to me. Not to the team. Not to the players. But yeah, just a different. It's a different vibe going on right here, and that felt good just talking to him right there.
Good to find out too. Nick Roy's sprained ankle.
Yep.
Going to be fine.
Yep,
Going to be back, and that's a position that you need.
Well, there he is on crutches.
Also, I think we were right about the defensive tackle.
How about that? You even talking about him moving outside to end.
Moving outside to end. Hey, listen, Pete. I'm digging the vibe here, Pete.
And he also confirmed our inconsistency from the quarterback position that we talked about as well too. We sort of.
I don't think I needed that one from him.
Yeah, but again, and Pete knows, and again, I want everybody to understand that we're living in a different world now, and what the coaching staff is going to do is go back and look at this game and look at the practices and go, we're really good here, like defensive tackle. We got depth at running back. Where are we not good enough at yet? What are the opportunities, whether it's younger players that are on this team that are still learning, or whether it's players in the transfer portal? It's like free agency. Think about it like free agency. That's a little bit of what the world is. And If quarterback is too inconsistent for Pete and Dave Patnaugh, the offensive coordinator, that and again, not just today, but through the whole course of spring, they'll have the ability to go, is there somebody else out there that can bring us consistency?
So I think what we all do is like we'll make a depth chart after today, right? And then we'll come back and we'll reconvene in August, and then we'll be like, oh, well, no, take it, scratch this guy. Oh, add this guy, right? That's just the way it is normally, but even more so, this year. So you're absolutely right. Totally different. Could be in certain positions, different team come August.
Quarterbacks today have been a little bit up and down, a little bit inconsistent. Like part of that is we haven't talked about the defensive backs yet today. They're good.
I like this group.
Yeah, they're real good. You lose Devin Grant to Syracuse in the portal, and they cut him a nice big check. Don't blame him at all. But you bring back Fuqua, who a year and a half ago was an All-American and led the nation in interceptions. So you got to find someone to play along with him. I think that there's guys depth-wise. Capo,
yeah.
Robinson can step in there. And then outside, Jaden Oliver comes back. He was in the portal for like 6 seconds, and then he came back.
Last year.
McCarthrins was awesome last year.
I like those two. McCarthrins, I like the secondary. I mean, as it is right now, that we haven't talked enough, that could be the second strength.
Right.
You mentioned defensive tackle 1.
Yep.
Secondary could be 2.
And we like the linebackers.
And the linebackers.
And he told us that the defensive tackles can move to defensive end, so I think I'm done with defense.
Well, yeah.
To a certain extent, that's everything I need to hear right there.
Oliver Bridges, which is officially now, he's called it. It's his guy. It's
my favorite guy.
Transfer from
My
Cincinnati.
Fair.
He is huge.
He's 6'2", 205.
Yeah, he's a brick house. I like what they have at the nickel spot as well. Solomon Brown, if you remember at the end of last year, he shut down Wiggless from Ohio, shut down Tanner Canoe in that Eastern Michigan game. He really started to come on at late, and Jalen McNair showed us a lot of really positive things before he got banged up last season, which once they finally were able to settle that position down, the defense in MAC play got way better.
Yeah. And
they're bringing back the two guys that we like. Caleb Tate can also slide in there as
Savion
well.
Brown, transfer from Western Michigan, who played for the Broncos a little bit. He's here as well, too.
Yep. I like the depth overall, just across the board. Hines is still there, right?
Yeah, Clevester Hines.
Clevester Hines is still there. One of the main
Are
reasons.
we back to Clevester, or are we still on Trey?
No one has ever
Hines.
other than
Hines,
his
good idea.
name is Clevester. He wants to be called Clevester, but everyone else in the program calls him Trey, probably because they just don't want to have to say Clevester every time.
It's a lot of work.
So I will put that on my list of things to do in fall camp, of to actually ask him, what do you want us to refer to you as?
And then when he says Clevester, we'll just call him Trey.
Okay, right.
Like everybody else.
Hey, Trey, what name do you want us to call you by?
He's one of the main reasons why there's a trophy downstairs from that Camellia Bowl.
That's right.
He was awesome in that game. Kind of got thrown to the wolves a couple of times, still with the inexperience last year, but as a conversion from wide receiver to corner, he's got a lot of potential. Mike Sainristil from Michigan just got drafted yesterday. He was 3 years a wide receiver in Michigan.
Right.
And then wasn't going to get on the field and flipped over and was able to play a similar position as Trey Hines. I'm not saying Trey Hines is going to be a second-round pick. I'm just saying that's kind of a blueprint of what they can do with him, and we've seen him, and he's shown that he can play physically at that spot.
And you're talking about the hopes of the season. Defense travels. That's the old, right?
That's right.
So if your strength is defense, that usually means you can be in most games.
And, man, the offense last year, we said it earlier, they were real bad last year. That was a real bad offense from the Bulls last year, 100 and up as far as rankings overall in the nation in all of those categories. We were in every game.
Yeah.
In the late third, early fourth quarter, they were still there.
Right.
Where that's why it was so frustrating last season. It really felt like, man, the defense is a 7-8 win team and a competitor for the MAC East, and the offense just couldn't figure it out. And a lot of those guys are back, and I think with some fresh eyes and some fresh enthusiasm and a much better coherent offensive plan, that maybe we can play a little bit of complementary football this year and get some of those wins.
By the way, 42-yard pass just now from Mike DePillo to, I think, was that Nick McMillan?
Yep.
Or it was Nick McMillan, a
course
17,
it
not
was.
11.
Yeah.
McMillan is right now the star of this scrimmage, much
Second.
like he was last year,
He's
right,
laid out
Bob?
for this one.
Yeah. I think Scott's prediction that he could be the best receiver in the MAC, I haven't seen
He
anything
looks-
that doesn't make me
he-
think that's true.
He looks the part, and he plays the part. And
Yeah.
we would have seen a lot more of it last year if he didn't get banged up there right in the middle of the season. Wide receiver is interesting. Brad, you're right. Taji,
Yeah.
And
The
there's-
size, right?
And there's
Size. Looks
Carthrens
good.
with an interception.
size is good.
Jenkins, the transfer from Columbia, I think is a guy who can help.
and Columbia, really nice offense that they had in the Ivy League. Chance Morrow, remember a couple times last year?
Yeah.
Like, who's the 6'5" kid that can just go up and make those plays? Morrow, I think, has added some beef this year to go along with some of that guy. He was a little bit just kind of a skinny guy last year, but
No, they can put out a
Yeah.
big, intimidating group of wideouts all at the same time now, which is cool if you can get them the ball. And that's something they're going to keep working on, and they're going to try to find a guy either within or without this building right now. But hopefully come August, they've got somebody to connect with that group of receivers I think can be very good for this Bulls team, especially with that 4 out of 5 returners on the offensive line. You should be in a pretty good spot. And if it's done correctly, this should be a good season for the Bulls.
Yeah, you have weapons. I mean, you just look at the receiver and the running back room. It doesn't. I know Jim Harbaugh says tackles are weapons, and this team actually
Sure.
receivers and running backs are weapons. This year on this team.
Scott, I got a question for you. We touched a little bit on the MAC. It seems to me like the MAC may be as wide open as in any year that you and I can remember, partly because a lot of the good players left the MAC. What's your, we talked about the schedule. You got Toledo, you got Western, you got, some of the different schools that we don't play very often. But what's the story of the MAC, and how does that relate to a team with holes to fill here as to being just one of 12 teams with holes to fill?
right. And these conversations normally have started for us with, well, let's take a look at the East. And that's kind of out the window now. You have to kind of look.
That's an adjustment we're going to have to
That's
make.
an adjustment because I think just looking at the schedule here, Ohio lost a lot of talent to the portal, which was really shocking.
Their best receiver and their quarterback, and I think their best running back as well,
and
right?
Running back, Miami lost their best running back and a couple of other players in the portal, plus graduation. Kent State had one win last year and is still kind of struggling to piece that thing together. Eastern brought in a transfer quarterback who we know. Cole Snyder leaves the Bulls, goes to Ypsilanti out there. It's wide open. Toledo has been able to kind of retain some of their talent. They're
Minus
always
their quarterback and their running back.
right, but I mean they're still able to recruit really well. Pretty much anybody can get into school there, and that helps. And they've been a little bit, as far as the conference is concerned, they've been a little bit ahead of the game as far as
I think they
NAL
probably
money.
still are, right?
Yeah, so I think that they've been okay.
They're the team to beat, I would suspect that you would say right now. That they're the team to beat probably
Yes.
right now?
Yep. Yeah.
But Northern's got a new quarterback, in there.
Is Rocky Lombardi not back
yeah,
for
I
his 18th season there?
Yeah.
No, I think they forced him out.
Yeah.
So I think that's what you're going to almost see sometimes.
I think the only, not to interrupt you, Bob, but the only quarterback of note, of name that's back in the MAC is Gabbert at Miami, and he's just struggled to stay healthy every year. I don't know that there's any established high-level quarterback on any team in the MAC right now.
But to your point, why is it open every year? Because sometimes the better teams get rated.
Yep.
And, they lose some talent, and then, who knows how they're going to be. And the Kent States, they're coming in as being 1-11 last year. I think a 4-8 at Ball State. So I think it's going to be a wide open year in the MAC.
Yeah, not Ball State. Bowling Green does bring the Basilak kid back, an experienced quarterback. They've gotten better every year. I think they're a sneaky team that is on our schedule this year or not. No, don't play them this year. So, but I think they're a team.
The hell with the Falcons.
I know, but I think legitimately they're a team that might be in the upper half of the conference.
Team non-conference, you might have to worry about UConn, was 3-9, but they were very competitive.
They were very competitive with a tough schedule.
With a very tough schedule
last year.
So that is Jim Mora there.
They've been building.
They lost to BC by 7, NC State by 10. So don't let that 3-9 record. That's going to be a tough game.
It's going to be a tough game for sure. It's on the road, so that's always going to be a challenge as well. UMass, didn't have a great year, and they're finally biting the bullet. One thing that Mark didn't say is with them joining the MAC, this time they're bringing the basketball program, which is going to be cool for the basketball side of things. But
because they probably step in as one of the favorites to win the MAC next year.
Absolutely.
Right. Frank Martin, their basketball coach, led,
South Carolina,
Kansas State.
Yep.
Yeah. Don Brown was the former Michigan defensive coordinator, so he's known as being a defensive guy, the head coach. They come in, they were 3-9. They lost to 3 MAC teams last year. They lost to Toledo, Eastern Michigan, and Miami last year. They went 0-3 against MAC teams last year to UMass.
Yeah, so the best advice I could say to anybody is don't pay a whole lot of attention to the preseason media poll that'll come out right before the season starts, because I don't think anybody, including any of us that voted it, have any real idea. It's a lot of projections and, this transfer from there might wind up being good. I think it's as wide open a year that I can remember. Clearly, for obvious reasons there's no divisions to make it wide open, but just because these teams are all fighting through departures and additions and changes.
And as we speak here today, there's 15 days left in the portal. There's going to be a lot of teams that will wrap up spring practice and have guys hit the portal as they wind down spring practice, as the semester starts to wind down here in the spring as well. So. You look at Miami. Miami just had a quarterback just leave in the middle of spring practice. Some of these FBS teams might have log jams at positions where all of a sudden we're not talking about that guy, but just because he's a late addition to the portal, he could end up at a MAC school that could completely change the landscape of the entire conference. The Bulls could end up with a former FBS starter at quarterback. And all of a sudden, man, what does that do? What does that change?
Changes a lot
for the conference and for the projection of this team. So, if you were to all of a sudden insert an experienced weapon at quarterback for a team like the Bulls, who have 4 starters on the offensive line returning, 3 good running backs, and a defense with, I think, probably 8 or 9 legitimate, solid, all-MAC worthy starters.
Game on. Let's go.
Right. It's going to change the entire complexion of the entire conference.
I'd like that to happen soon.
Right.
Well, just and I don't even mean for my own satisfaction. I mean for the practice time, so that thinking about the wide receivers on this team and the O-line,
and the running backs.
There's one piece that they're cycling through, and I don't see them. I don't pretend to know everything about the ins and outs of the 7 or 8 different guys they're looking at quarterback, but you know what they say about if you have 8 quarterbacks, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of where we are right now. So I'm sure they're well aware, and I would not be surprised if we see someone else in here by the time August rolls around.
We've seen it over the years. I think back to the 2016 season, which was Lance Leipold's second, which was that a 1-10 season when Tyree Jackson took over in the first game? And
it was 2.
It was 2 wins that year.
2-10. They beat Army in the FCS.
It was. You look back on it now and you go, that was the building year that then led to heights that this program had never reached before. I don't know that you need to go through those kinds of years anymore. You can do things to supplement to maybe a team that should have been 2-10 be a 5-7 team because of things that you can add. It changes the way you build and or rebuild programs.
I don't want to talk about numbers lower than 6, Paul.
Gotcha.
You just took a team to 5 and counted that as a...
Well, yeah, no, but
I know what you're saying.
I'm with you. But again, I think getting to that 6 wins, even if you think you're in a rebuilding mode because you have a first year as a head coach, doesn't have to happen that way. One other thing I wanted to mention, we were talking about the defense. I'm super impressed with Joe Bowen, who's the new defensive coordinator, who comes from Miami. under Chuck Martin, and I believe I said to him at one point, I said, even if you just bring a little bit of that Miami defense that has terrorized this program pretty consistently over the last 5 years, like, we're going to love it, right? Miami's always been one of the best defenses in the MAC, and Joe was right there in the middle of it, and I think eventually that's his goal, to make this defense be very much like the Red Hawks have been over the years.
And to go along with that, they've been really good at identifying talent that have been a little bit under the radar, like McWood and all those guys that every year you see play and you say,
Mm-hmm.
oh, is McWood still there? No, they found another guy that's just like him that they've plugged in that looks just like him.
Just looks like him.
Yeah, yeah. They've been good with talent evaluation as well, and that's something that Coach Bowen's going to bring. He's energized for sure. If you've seen him mic'd up, he's fun.
Yeah. It's a very
He's ready to go.
young but aggressive and excited defensive coaching staff.
Yes.
What was it? Something violence? What was he talking about in that video?
I think it's just violence.
No, it was something.
A lot of violence.
It was.
I think
No,
it's
it was
a lot of
It
violence.
was better. It was a more artistic
Intensity
expression.
and violence,
It was
maybe,
like
something like
that. It was just aggression and fire, whatever it was. I'm like, oh, all right, this guy's not messing around. So yeah, I look forward to seeing what they can bring.
I just want to throw a vote forward here. I think the best pure passer we've seen today has been Richie Watts.
Me too.
He's been running with the threes. He's had the best throws into tight windows today. I don't know. He's shown a little bit of mobility. I don't know if that's necessarily what he wants to do, but
yeah, from
from
a physical standpoint, he's been the most impressive of the group today. I don't know what that means. I don't know what the rest of his game is. I don't know what he's like in camp this whole time. But yes, if there's a guy who stands out physically, it has been him.
Yeah, it's 42-yard field goal. It would not. It was
good.
That was good. But
That would have been good from 41 and a half.
That was barely good.
that counts.
Yeah, Nick Reed just.
You were
sneaking
talking
it
about
in.
how maybe McNulty finds a role in the NFL as like a specialty kicker. Who
Yeah.
if the goal there was, I want you to kick it exactly 42 yards,
Yes.
nailed it.
Specialty.
That was
Yes.
made that kick by an inch.
There's going to be we got spoiled by Alex McNulty, like you alluded to, Brad. You rolled them out for 55-yarders, and at first you're like, "What are they doing?" And then later it was like, "Bring them on! We're at the 40. Let's go!" Right? You're going to have to step back from that until Nick Reed or whomever the kicker is going to be settles in a little bit. And it's unusual to find a college kicker with the consistent distance that Alex McNulty showed.
Oh, it's amazing. It's the only time
He
we've seen
was
it here.
like 4 for 8 in his career from 50 yards or more.
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing these games for, you even longer, but I've been here since 08. That's the first time the kicker's ever been a real weapon.
Right.
We've had reliable and unreliable, but we've never seen, hey, we're at the 40, there's a shot now. So that was a cool little twist, but we can get back to normal kicking.
It used to be, let's get to the 25. We have to get to the 25 to kick a field goal.
Used
Last
to be-
couple of years was get to the 40.
Yeah.
That was a difference.
We used to grit our teeth at extra points.
That's true.
Quite a bit.
Now, on a related topic, Pete LMO's a special teams guy. That is most of his career. He has been a special teams coach. I have never seen a Bulls team practice as much special teams as I have this spring. And for obvious reasons, it's what Pete does well, but I also suspect that Pete recognizes if I can develop this team into the best special teams in the Mid-American Conference, that might be worth 2 wins this year, particularly with a team that may still be evolving its talent level. But if you can steal a couple games away because you are the best special teams unit in the MAC, I think that's a heck of a strategy from Pete.
The other thing you're doing when you focus on special teams at this level is you're involving your full roster. Mm-hmm. You're getting, it's not my star offensive players, my star defensive players, and then a bunch of dudes who practice with them. It's, we're spending half of our practice today working on special teams. You know who that involves? Everybody but the quarterbacks. The rest of you are involved, and you are one unit, and I think that does something. The teams that are good on special teams at any level of football tend to be the teams that are top to bottom talented and work together and operate as a unit. And I think that mentality being injected into the program is probably good. It might not even be the main goal of it, but it's it's a side effect that you are looking for and that I think you'll enjoy.
I think what you might be looking for is attention to detail. It shows me like it's an overall
Yeah.
attention to detail on as a team as a whole.
And if you could turn attention to detail into a blocked punt or a blocked kick that gets picked up or that changes field position, that's, again, we've seen it on both sides, both good and bad here over the years. Lost yardage and yardage that you gain because your special teams is in the right place at the right time, and then those ultimately become game-changing plays. What's the stat? I know the stat in the NFL is if you block a punt, you win like 75% of the games that you involve with a blocked punt, right? That stuff, it means something.
They would have beat BG last year.
That's
if they had just had somebody fielding the punts.
Yeah, not giving away about 60 yards.
So you're giving away 30 yards, 20, 25 yards. And also, I think it's important when you're in the MAC, you're not going to play any dome games until you get to the championship. You're playing in bad weather.
Yeah.
A lot. And special teams are usually the type of unit where you're going to have to punt 4 or 5 times. Not because you're bad on offense, not because the other team's great on defense, but just it sucks outside, and you're going to have to do it. And if you can't, you're stuck, and you lose that field position battle and all those hidden yards, like in the Bowling Green game last year where for 3 quarters in a row, the Bulls are starting from inside their own 13-yard line every possession, even though their defense is out there getting 3 and outs. It's a huge aspect of the game. And it's nice and refreshing to have a coach so focused on, listen, everybody says there's 3 phases of the game. We're going to treat it like this is the 3rd phase. It's important. And they're going to come out here, and I think they're going to be a much better team in that 3rd phase than we've probably seen in a long time.
I think I've always rejected the idea that special teams is 1/3 of the game because, no, it's not. But these are the plays where the ball is traveling massive amounts of yardage, and it's a very easy opportunity to pin somebody down. So while I don't believe in the 33.3% part of it, I do recognize that some of the biggest plays where the ball is in the air the longest and moving the farthest take place on special teams, and I think Pete gets that. Are we done?
And Veneri, the punter, right?
And Veneri's coming back.
He's coming back.
Veneri's back.
Yep.
Are we? Okay, now that we mentioned the punter, I think we're done.
I think we've
done.
I think we've literally
Sorry,
mentioned
Anthony.
every aspect of this team
Sorry, Anthony.
in this little, yes.
That's pretty good. All right. Thank you to our presenting sponsor, Hyundai, today. Thanks to
Hyundai.
all of you, Hyundai, all you guys, everybody who put it together. Our guests, Jim McNally, Craig Serus, Pete LMO, Mark Alnutt in studio, Matt Walfran. Thank you very much for putting this together. Everybody who watched, listened, etc. And I think that's it. We'll see you, I'm sure, at some point between now and then. But right here it says August 29th. We'll be back in our booth here when UB hosts Lafayette.
Thursday night
game to start the season in August. So we look forward to that. So for Paul and Scott and Bob, I'm Brad. Thank you. We'll see you when the season starts. Go Bulls.